Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about whether or not to sell your pandemic home. As you know, during quarantine and the pandemic, a lot of people almost everybody was sent to work remotely. Because of that, people decided to move away from the hub of their jobs. So for us in New Jersey, because a lot of our workforce comes from New York City or Philadelphia, a lot of people decided to move to the suburbs, get a lower cost of living because their commute was basically eliminated. Now that things have changed a little bit, there are people that are going back to work all of the time. Some of people are going back hybrid, and that commute is starting to become a bother again. And a lot of people are thinking, should I sell my COVID home? The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on the way people live and work. And as a result, some people are moving back to the city after the pandemic, but the trend is not universal. However, as the pandemic subsides and restrictions ease, some people are moving back to the city in search of the cultural, social, and economic opportunities that it does provide. Additionally, remote work has become more common during the pandemic, and this has allowed some people to move back to the city and continue working from home. This trend has been particularly pronounced in high-tech cities, where many tech companies have embraced the remote work environment. It's worth noting that this trend of people moving back to the city will likely vary depending on the city. Some cities may see a resurgence of urban living while others may not see much of a change. Here are some factors to consider when making a post-pandemic move to the city. Cost of living. City living can be expensive, and it's important to consider the cost of housing, food, and transportation, along with other essentials. 2. The job market. If you're considering a move for work, it's important to research the job market, particularly opportunities available in your field. 3. Housing availability. The housing market in cities can be very competitive, and it may be difficult to find a place to live. It's a good idea to start your search early and be prepared to act quickly. And for those of you that are selling a home in the suburbs to move back to the city, my suggestion is to get with an expert, a real estate professional that can get with you, determine the price of your home, and can get your house ready to sell or even put it on the market so that you can sell it with the contingency of you finding a suitable home, so that when that home in the city comes about, you already have an offer on your home and you can move with it a lot more smoothly and with a lot less stress. Number 4, quality of life. City life can be very fast-paced and stressful, so it's important to consider the quality of life you'll have in the city. Make sure you have access to parks, recreational activities, and other amenities that are important to you. Number 5, commutes. In cities, the commute to work can be longer and more complicated. Consider how you get to work and how much time you'll spend in traffic before you make your move. Number 6, safety. Make sure you research the safety of the neighborhood and take the steps necessary to ensure the safety of your family. It's important to weigh these factors carefully and make an informed decision before making a big move to the city. The next thing to think about is the financial considerations. The financial consequences is something that is super specific to your home and your situation. So talking to an expert that could help you understand what your payoff is, how much your home value is in today's market, which does vary from last month, last year, and 2 years ago when COVID happened, could really help you determine whether that's a good move for you or not. The next thing to consider is the housing market conditions in your specific area, in your specific neighborhood. We've talked about this before. We know how, depending on where you are, how the school districts are doing, what the crime rates are, your market is going to be affected by those factors. I'm going to tell you straight up, if you bought your home in early 2020, you're probably going to be okay with selling your home and getting a nice profit from it to put into whatever your next home is. If you buy your home later in 2020 or even into 2021, we really have to look at the numbers. We need to find out how much you owe on your property. We need to see how much your home is worth, what COVID projects you did to improve the value of the property, so that we can determine if you are going to have some kind of a gain or if you're going to have a wash if you sell it right now. A lot of the country is going through a very tricky market adjustment. Prices are decreasing at a very fast pace. That's not really happening in New Jersey because there's still a very high demand. We still have a lot of buyers that are looking for a home because rent is getting more expensive and there's not a lot of rentals available. So owning a home is always going to be a better option for those people, and there's just not enough inventory for our population. So we're still getting into numerous multiple offer situations, which is not drawing the prices up considerably as it was before, like 20 and 30,000, but it is doing that $5,000 to $10,000 gap where properties are still gaining some kind of value and not decreasing in value, specifically in the northern and central New Jersey areas. Again, South Jersey, a different story. That commute to New York is far greater, and that really impacts the value of your home in South Jersey. Now, the decision to sell your home is a personal one and it depends on specific circumstances. So we did get a big flush of people come in during COVID that didn't want to live in the city anymore, it was too congested. So they did move into the suburbs and were able to purchase a larger home. A lot of times they had a pool, they had bigger yard, bigger space so that their kids could go to school remotely and they could work remotely without killing each other. Now that things are somewhat back to normal and people are starting that commute again, the draw to move back into the city becomes a big consideration, especially if you have a family, especially if you have a large family. I know for me, for instance, my husband does work in New York City. His commute is about probably an hour, hour and a half each way. He does take the train. We are very lucky to live in an area that has a direct train that goes into New York City and it's an express train. So that does help us quite a bit. We did not move during the pandemic. We actually lived in this home before the pandemic, and we chose this home, this location, because the school district was very good because of our specific location. We're right in between New York City and Philadelphia. And actually, when we did move into this home, my husband did work in Philadelphia. So we just thought that this was a great place to be for 3 job forces: Philadelphia, New York, and New Jersey. We're right in the middle, so it doesn't matter where he's working, we were going to be central to it, which ended up happening. He did get a promotion. He's now working for the same company, but in New York City, and his commute is very similar. Whereas when we were in Philadelphia, he was driving. Now that he's in New York, he's taking the train, which he actually prefers. And in his specific job, he's only going in 2 to 3 times a week. There are a lot of people that I know, a lot of clients that this commute just wasn't for them. They, for whatever reason, don't want to take the train, or where they are living, there is no train nearby, so their only option is to drive. And that could turn into a 2.5 hour drive depending on traffic. And when you factor in kids activities, all of those other things that we really started to value during the pandemic, like family time, like shutting off from work and really enjoying spending time with the family. Sometimes that's just not possible with that commute. So the decision to move closer to the city is a big consideration, a very important one for their family's sake. So what should you consider if this is something that you're thinking about? First of all, your family. To me, that would be the number one question. Is there a way that you can make the commute happen? Is there a way to make your life an enjoyable one while still having this commute? Is there a way for you to maybe work remotely some days if your company's not offering that already? Those are things that I would try first. Getting help if you can afford it, a nanny or just somebody that can help you take kids from one activity to the other while you're commuting back and forth could be a very smart move instead of moving, because now your kids might be used to the suburbs and it's a big difference to get used to the city again when you're used to the suburbs. Some people getting used to the suburbs was a nightmare. They could not deal with not getting meal delivered at 3 in the morning, and going to the city is a no-brainer. And if that is your situation, then I completely agree. Go do you. Go move back to the city, because it sounds like that is the great fit for you. I find that once you start having a family and the quality of life starts becoming important, that those ideals start to get shifted. And not for everyone. There's plenty of people that live in the city with their families and they're completely content, and that is great too. Again, it comes down to preference. The last thing that I would consider is the emotional attachment. I mean, we all went through a big shift during COVID, and a lot of people stopped looking at home as a place to just lay their head and more of a place to enjoy, love, and be happy in. So I would really take a look into your emotional attachment to your home. Sometimes people think about the financial circumstances and their commute, then they do this big move and then they regret it. So really thinking about what you're losing and what you're gaining is going to be huge into determining whether this is a good move for you or not.